Hello, everyone. Welcome to Free Write Friday. My name is Jessica Lynn Johnson. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder and CEO of Soaring Solo Studios, and that's a company dedicated to the direction and development of one-person plays. I am also a solo artist myself. I've been in this industry for about 20 years now, and I toured with both of my award-winning solo shows all over the place. And now I have the pleasure of directing and developing other solo artists and helping them tell their stories from stage, both virtually and in person. And I get to work with people all over the world, Canada, Mexico, New York City, Florida, Chicago, Los Angeles, all over. So wherever you are in the world, I am excited to help you tell your story. And thank you for those of you who got the memo that we changed the time from 2 p.m. Pacific today to 1 p.m. And hopefully people will still be logging on despite the time change. And thank you for rolling with that. What else can I tell you? I'm on the advisory board with the LA Women's Theater Festival, as well as their screening panel. And I am a blogger for NoHo Arts. My blog is called Soaring Solo, and I write all about solo theater. So be sure to check that out for some tips and tricks and techniques all about solo theater. And I'd love to hear from you as well. So if you're watching on Zoom or if you're watching the playback on YouTube, just in the chat or in the comments, I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, where you're at in your solo theater journey. Let me know both of those things and say hi to one another. Okay, great. So the mission of Free Write Friday, if you're new to it, we are just really exploring structure and format and all those good things around solo theater and how it is the same and also how it is different from ensemble and other types of plays. It is meant to be a supportive, creative community. And yeah, we just try to keep the energy positive every time we get together on this. It's not really going to be a space where we share our work or where we do Q&A. That's not really what Free Write Friday is. Although my free class, which happens monthly, is a space where you can ask questions. And of course, you can always email me at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com with your questions after the fact. But today's really just going to be more lecture, and then we'll write together, and that's it. Pretty short and sweet. The whole thing should take no more than 30 minutes, if that. And the next Free Write Friday, if you want to go ahead and mark your calendar and also hop on my website and sign up for it, is happening Friday, October 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So go ahead and sign up for that. 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. A little bit of housekeeping. If you're going to be doing anything distracting, go ahead and turn your camera off. Otherwise, keep it on and let us see your pretty faces. Make sure you have something nearby you to write with or write on or type on. And if you're somebody who is better with standing up and recording yourself and just kind of improvising, you can always do that too. I really should have said that before this point. Some people are just better at standing up and improvising and recording and transcribing later. So you can always do that in this environment too, if that helps you when we get to the writing portion of today. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and jump in. So today, we're going to start looking at the hero's journey structure, which most of you are probably familiar with, but maybe you're not. And that Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, we're going to kind of pick that apart and look at it through the lens of solo theater. So that's probably going to take us the next month or two to really dive deep into that because it has a lot of different aspects to it. And I'm going to go a tiny bit out of order with the hero's journey as I introduce you to it today, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But first, we're going to look to the call to adventure. So in the hero's journey, there's this thing called the call to adventure. And it's essentially when the adventure of the solo show starts. What is the protagonist or the hero of this journey being called to do? What action are they being called to take? What problem are they being presented with? That they simply can't ignore. They need to step into this and they need to handle it. So we want to make sure that that call to adventure is made clear pretty much toward the very beginning of our show so the audience knows what sort of adventure they're going on and what challenge the protagonist is being asked to rise to meet. So that protagonist or hero might be you if you're telling your own story, or you might be writing a fantasy piece with fictional characters, or it might be based on a historic figure or something like that. But whoever the protagonist is, whoever that hero is, It is their call to adventure. And so I'll give you an example from Fertile. That's the show I've been referencing quite a bit. Fertile is written and performed by Heather Dowling, who's a soaring solo instructor and a brilliant award-winning solo artist herself. And in that show, her protagonist, Jenny, the hero of that story, finds out she has PCOS. And that means she's not going to get pregnant, or it's unlikely she's going to get pregnant in a traditional way, that it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So the adventure, the call to adventure, really begins when the doctor tells her about acupuncture. And then after that, she finds about IUI and IVF and special diets and laying in funny positions and all these different things that she has to do, this adventure she has to go on to step outside of her comfort zone, to try to go beyond her comfort zone, to go on this adventure, to answer the call. So that's an example from Fertile. And when you look at your own life, or again, the life of your hero in your story, whoever that might be, fictional or not, what is that call to adventure? Maybe it's an actual adventure, going on a trip or some sort of journey, some trip you're going on, or a vacation or something like that. Maybe it's entering a new career or new terrain in that sense, just unknown territory in that way. Maybe it's getting into a new relationship. Maybe it's getting out of a relationship and getting into single territory again. And oh my God, what does that look like? Whatever that is for you or for that character. So how we're going to handle today's writing, we're going to break it up into two parts. So for this first part, I'm going to give you 4 minutes. And I just want you to brainstorm about what are some calls to adventure in your life or in the life of the character of your solo show. So this is not about getting it perfect. This is totally just about expression right now. I want you to think about what are those calls to adventure that you've experienced in your life, or if you have one really specific one that's jumping out at you, write about that. But you have 4 minutes to write about your hero in your solo show's call to adventure, and I'll let you know when your time is up. Okay, great. So go ahead and wrap that up. Wrap up your writing around the call to adventure. And now we're going to move into the ordinary world, which actually in the structure of the hero's journey comes first. First, we meet the character, the protagonist, the hero in their ordinary world, and then they get the call to adventure. But sometimes when we're writing our solo shows, we kind of know what that call to adventure is that we want to write about first. And then we have to think back and go, okay, well, who was I before that call to adventure? And that's essentially what the ordinary world is. It is that space before the journey has begun. It's the ordinary, mundane life of the character, of perhaps you or whoever you've made the protagonist in your solo show. So, for instance, let's say the call to adventure was continuing to do life in the pandemic, saying yes to life and not giving up and maybe being a creative spirit in the pandemic. Well, your ordinary world before that would be whatever your life was before the pandemic. What did that look like? Who was involved in your life? What did your day-to-day job look like? What was your life before that? What was your ordinary world? And then you get this call to adventure to be an artist in a global pandemic. And that's the adventure you're going on, good or bad. We never said the adventure had to feel good. Oftentimes they're challenging. So when you're thinking about your ordinary world, really get specific in those expositional details, thinking about how old you were, who were the people that were involved in your life in your ordinary world before your call to adventure. So who were those main characters? Where did it take place? And who were you at that time? And again, use this interchangeably with whoever the protagonist or hero of your journey is. But what was your life like before? And as many of those juicy details as you can remember before that, because that really sets the stakes for your audience. Before you go on this journey, they need to understand why this is uncomfortable territory for you, why this is going to transform you. And the better they know who you were before that, the more impactful the transformation will be as you tell your story. So again, going back to the story of Fertile, Jenny's ordinary world before she was called on this adventure to try and get pregnant and have a family in a million different ways that were outside of her comfort zone. She was just a 35-year-old woman having sex with her husband, trying to get pregnant the traditional way. That was her ordinary world, having conversations with her friends, all those sorts of things. So that was the picture that we alluded to in the opening scene of the show. Even though we don't really see much of her ordinary world at the beginning, we talk about it in past tense when she's talking to her friend Gloria. So we find out a lot of that ordinary world circumstances through that conversation. So for part 2 of today's writing, I'm going to again give you just 4 minutes. And I would love for you to write about your ordinary world before you were called on this adventure. So if in the first writing exercise today, you wrote about a few different calls to adventure, pick one and just write about who you were, what your world was like before you went on that call to adventure. Okay, you have 4 minutes and I'll let you know when your time is up. Okay, please go ahead and wrap up your writing about your ordinary world. And hopefully today gave you some good pointers or a lens to see your show through or your story through. I think we've all seen those solo shows where we go, what is this about? And as we're watching it, it just feels like a bunch of anecdotes and interesting stories, but there's no through line, there's no arc, there's no real transformation for the character. Sometimes we don't quite know who the main character is. So this is to avoid all of that. When we have this sort of structure, and something as solid as the hero's journey to work from, that can really help us find a captivating story where there is a clear through line, there is a clear arc, and it's a story of adventure and transformation for the protagonist. So keep thinking of your story in those terms, and it will help you put the pieces together and decide what goes in your show and what hits the editing room floor or is perhaps reserved for your next solo show or the show after that or a totally different project. Okay, and don't forget to transcribe what you wrote today. If it's not in a document on your computer, if you wrote it in scrap paper or did an audio file or something, just make sure you transcribe it so you're building upon the things that you're creating here in FREEWrite Friday. And if you look in the chat, you're going to see a bunch of announcements. We have, as always, a lot of really wonderful things happening in the Soaring Solo community. So first off, my free class, The Art of Creating the One-Person Play, is happening tomorrow. So that's Saturday, September 25th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Just sign up for that at soaringSoloStudios.com under events. You can also find it under free stuff on my website, and you'll get an email with the Zoom link. So that's that. And that is a 90-minute class. So it's not short and sweet like today. It is sweet, but it is not short. Okay. And then if you're wanting to work with me in a more professional capacity or one of my Soaring Solo instructors, please email me at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com about power pairs, one-on-ones, the intensive, small group. You want to know what all of those things are and what we offer. Just email me and I would love to tell you more about it and see what would be a good fit for you. Also, if you're wanting to put a stake in the ground, I am hosting and launching a new virtual reading series called Revealed, and that is where I will feature different playwrights, different solo artists with works in progress. So it's kind of like wherever your solo show is, it's happening between now, September. Kevin Neighbors is kicking it off on the 30th with his second one-man show. So it's happening in September all the way through April of 2022 and just featuring works in progress of brand new solo shows. And it's just a table read. So you just present your work virtually on Zoom. I host it for you. And we talk with the audience afterward and get some feedback. What's working, what's not working with your solo show. So if that's something that would help you put a stake in the ground, something that's meaningful to work toward, I'd love to support you in that. Just email me at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com for more information about Revealed. And if you missed, again, if you missed FREEWrite Fridays, you can always go on my website, sorry, not on my website, although I should put it there, on my YouTube channel and catch all of the FREEWrite Fridays that you missed. We've had quite a few of them now, and that'll really help you format and structure your solo show. And also, I had done an event called Isolate, Meditate, Create, which many of you joined me for throughout the pandemic. There's 120 webisodes of Isolate, Meditate, Create on my YouTube channel. And basically that just utilizes meditation and visualization to help you write your solo show, to get that critic quiet in your mind, to get your personal dramas and mental chatter out of your mind so that your creative intuition can just flow and you can really discover what your story is through meditation and visualization. So find me on YouTube, Soaring Solo LLC, and look for Isolate, Meditate, Create. And that's a great way to get inspired to write your solo shows as well. And the next FREEWrite Friday, again, is happening Friday, October 1st, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. RSVP the same way you did today on my website. And last but not least, we have Binge Fringe happening at the Santa Monica Playhouse, which is a totally free, not just solo theater festival, although it's primarily solo theater this year, Festival of the Arts that's happening at the Santa Monica Playhouse. And we have the NAMBA festival that is also happening in Ventura. And both of those festivals are featuring a lot of Soaring Solo artists. So if you just go to my website and go under events, upcoming solo shows. You'll see the full schedule. And that also includes the Revealed series. We have a few artists who I've already posted about on my website for their readings. So there's a lot of opportunity to see solo theater fully polished and on stage, as well as seeing it as a work in progress through the Revealed series. So if this is something you're interested in, if you want to write another solo show and you already wrote one, these are all great ways to get inspired and to get educated on what it looks like to create a successful solo show. So I think that's everything for today. I'll leave this up for just a few more moments in case you want to jot down any of the things in the chats, any of the announcements, or say hi to one another, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump off. All right, have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.